just went to see a bunch of movies again. It was the Sean Connery James Bond movie, Never Say Never Again, and it was the three original RoboCop movies. So let's get to talking about Never Say Never Again. Well, it's a remake of Thunderball. The guys who owned the rights to the Thunderball story at the time decided, I guess it was back around 1983, they're gonna make another Bond movie, and they wanted Sean Connery again, so they. I'm trying to find the road here. That's not the highway. That's the highway. Well, there's the big puddle. So yeah, I guess it was 1983. They had the Roger Moore Bond film was part of the Eon series of films, which most of the Bond movies were produced under. So, in this Never Say Never Again, it's not the same continuity as the other Bond films that Connery did. Basically, he's playing an older Bond as he is an older Sean Connery, and he's still like technically part of MI6, but they kind of like the 00 branch, like Dorman, and then well, the bad guys steal a couple of nuclear weapons, and then they find out MI6 finds out that, oh, we need Bond again. So Bond eventually gets on the trail of the bad guys somehow, and tracks them down in the Bahamas, and then he's being chased by this crazy henchwoman that, wants to have him blown up and killed by sharks and all sorts of other funny situations. The movie's a bit of a comedy as far as the take on James Bond goes. So they have Bond then leaves for like southern France and like Monte Carlo, and he's again on the tail of the Largo, he's not the top bad guy. I mean, the head of Spectre, Blofeld, is, but Largo's the main focus of the movie as far as being the bad guy. And sorry, I just gotta watch traffic here for a second. So they have Bond go to this casino. For whatever reason, Bond just can't lock in the door normally like any other Bond film. He's got to subdue the doorman. So he puts the doorman in a closet, and he makes the doorman believe that the Bond's cigar case is an explosive device. And so Bond goes into the casino, and you see the usual like card games and such, and then because it's the early 80s, they had the early video game craze then, so Bond walks through a room full of arcade machines, and then he goes into this fancy room where this villain, he has his own custom video game, and it's difficult to follow the way they have the graphics as to what exactly is going on. But basically, they're like supposed to be in this game simulating like different countries with different kinds of laser and missile defenses, and Bond's on the one side of the screen, the bad guy's on the other side of the screen, and they're using the laser to like shoot up their like different parts of their country or whatever, and then they also have the other joystick where they like try to fire a missile at the other guy's plane that tries to make it through the defensive. Yeah, it's like it's weird. It's like a product of its time, trying to grasp what somebody wanted to do with a video game at that time. But as like Austin Powers like parodies Bond, rather than killing Bond, he decides, oh well, I'm going to invite Bond on my yacht and entertain him. And, well, the villain doesn't pay attention to Bond. Bond gets on this teletype computer and starts telling the American and British government, where the boat's headed and where the nuclear warheads might be located. So they end up at this castle in North Africa, and Largo finds out that Domino, who's the one girlfriend of his, has betrayed him to help Bond. And so he leaves Domino tied to this post while these different like bandits are like trying to it's kind of like a crude auction. They're like digging all this gold out of their pockets to see which one of them gets Domino. Meanwhile, Bond is up inside the castle, locked up in another room, and he just so happens to have his laser watch to cut the chains. So he eventually gets out of the chains, and he goes frees Domino, and the U.S. Navy shows up and starts firing missiles at the castle and henchmen bandits. And Bond gets on the submarine, and they find out that somewhere nearby in North Africa there's a cave where the one missile's being held. And so Bond finds his way into the cave with his CIA ally Felix Leiter, and they shoot up the place, and they shoot up the bad guy. And at the end of the movie, Bond ends up with Domino, and he's being asked, would you ever go back into the service? And then it's the, title, the tagline of the movie, never. So we, never wants to, serve again. That's never say never again. And then, so there was a short, intermission between the two films. The next film I watched was the original RoboCop. And Never Say Never Again is a movie I haven't watched in a long time, even though I've seen it multiple times. Some things kind of felt new to me. RoboCop is something I've seen a few times, over the last few years, a few times, so it's fresh in my mind. It starts out, you have Peter Weller plays Murphy. Murphy becomes RoboCop, and Peter Weller plays in the first two RoboCop movies. So the first movie starts out, Murphy, well, let's backtrack a little bit. The city of Detroit, the police department gets taken over by a mega corporation called Omni Consumer Products, so the police force is privatized. And then it cuts to Murphy being transferred from one police station to the other. So he's new at this police station, and he meets his partner, played by Nancy Allen. And Murphy's still just a regular guy. They get a call that a bank has been robbed, I'm listening to the scanner on my right. So they get the call that the bank has been robbed by Clarence Boddicker and his gang. So Clarence has at least 4 or 5 other guys helping him. And they get Murphy and Nancy Allen's character, Officer Lewis, is they find the van and they're chasing it down the highway. And they find that the van goes to like an abandoned steel mill. And Murphy and Officer Lewis follow them into the steel mill. And they get split up. They're, both trying to fight the henchmen like individually. And obviously I'm talking about, both, movie plots. There's going to be spoilers. But Murphy ends up getting killed by the gang, and Lewis ends up finding him. So they life flight him to a hospital, and you see him from his perspective of them operating on him, and he completely dies on the operating table, and then the screen goes blank for some time, and then you awaken to Murphy as RoboCop from his perspective. So you start seeing like a heads-up display of what he's thinking about and what he's observing, and they're trying all sorts of like different tests to see how he reacts to different things. And some time goes by, and they set up the police precinct that he was working at when he was Murphy. They bring in RoboCop along with the like repair and like diagnostic equipment, and they set it up in the building, and all the regular police officers are exposed, and they get to see Murphy at the shooting range. And so anyhow, Murphy leaves the shooting range. He's walking down the hall, and Nancy Allen recognizes him, and he's like, "Hey, Murphy, it's you." And RoboCop still doesn't remember that he was Murphy. He's still run by his machine mind, whatever Omni Consumer Products who built RoboCop and used his biological components from Murphy into him. Let's see. So Murphy ends up going out on patrol by himself without Nancy Allen. And there's differences between the original movie. Like there's the theatrical release, there's the director's cut. The director's cut is the best, that has the most footage, and the director's cut does not interfere with the story. It's the best way of watching it. Tonight I saw the theatrical release. It was a little shorter with the scenes, but the TV version, they have a cut down TV version that is absolutely terrible. Like it cuts down, like when Murphy leaves the police station, RoboCop, he's in his Ford Taurus, and you get to hear the RoboCop theme as he's getting on the highway, and he's heading to a liquor store that's being robbed. Well, in the TV version, the whole liquor store scene and the getting on the highway with the RoboCop theme is like cut out, and instead it cuts to the to summarize the liquor store scene. There's a guy who holds up this old couple that runs the liquor store, and he's got some sort of like Stenner Sterling machine gun, and he starts shooting at RoboCop, and it's not having any effect. And RoboCop walks up to him, bends the barrel of the machine gun, and then knocks him through the the refrigerator for the beer. And then it goes to the next scene where RoboCop's trying to stop this woman from being raped, and there's these two guys attacking her, and he shoots the one, and I guess he gets the other to surrender. But while this is going on, I'm trying to think of what the next scene was. I guess it would be well, they eventually get to the scene in the movie where they get back to Clarence Boddicker and his gang, and they're trying to do business with this cocaine factory. So there's a cocaine factory. Boddicker and his guys are doing distributing, but also they're in this middle part of the movie. Bob Morton, the guy who designed RoboCop, is moving up in the ranks of Omni Consumer Products, the company that built RoboCop, and there's the senior vice president of OCP. His name is Dick Jones. He's played by Ronnie Cox, and Ronnie Cox had this other robot called Ed 209, and what happened with Ed 209 is the robot malfunctioned and shot up another boardroom member, executive for OCP, and so the Bob Morton's RoboCop was put in as a contingency in case anything went wrong with that 209, which it did. So Bob gets promoted for RoboCop being successful, and he's at OCP later on. He's got his promotion, and Dick Jones threatens, Bob Morton because he doesn't want to get upstaged by Bob Morton, and he's also got a plan to kill Bob Morton using his friend in the crime world, Clarence Boddicker. So getting back to the drug factory, Clarence Boddicker is making this deal with the cocaine maker, and RoboCop finds out about it, shows up, shoots half of the henchmen, and he eventually corners Clarence Boddicker, and Boddicker spills the beans about his deal with Dick Jones, because Clarence Boddicker's worried that he's doing everything he can to save his own neck. I told him, that Dick Jones is. So yeah, RoboCop finds that Dick Jones is connected to Clarence Boddicker, and he goes up to Jones's office in the OCP headquarters to confront him, and he tries to arrest Dick Jones, and he finds out that there's a secret directive written into his program that he can't, kill or arrest an OCP executive. So here's RoboCop trying to arrest Dick Jones, and his programming is shutting him down. He can't do anything. And Dick Jones has one of these N209 robots show up and start to shoot RoboCop up. And they have a fight in the hallways of the office building, and RoboCop escapes through the stairway to go down to the parking garage, and he goes down to the parking garage, and waiting for him is the Detroit police SWAT team, and these SWAT team guys apparently aren't from the same precinct as Murphy or RoboCop, so these guys don't know him, they don't care about it, and they just want to follow Dick Jones's orders. So, and amongst them are some of the regular Detroit police cops that are Murphy's friends. So the SWAT team wants to open fire on Murphy, or RoboCop. So they start shooting at him, and then the regular Detroit cops are like, "The heck with this! We're getting out of there." And RoboCop's all shot up, and Nancy Allen rescues him, and she takes him back to the. It seems to be the same steel mill that they were at earlier in the movie, and neither of them knows that. Neither of them knows that RoboCop has a tracking device built into him. At this point, also, Murphy is getting back his humanity. He's remembering more things about himself. And I forgot to mention there was an earlier part in the film where RoboCop tried visiting Murphy's house to try and get in contact back with his family, and he finds that the house is being sold, it's vacated, the family and his wife and his son had moved off to somewhere else. So anyhow, getting back to the factory, Nancy Allen leaves him there because he's all beat up, and she goes back to the police precinct to get the tools needed to repair Murphy, and she also gets like a spare Beretta auto pistol for him, which is like sidearm of choice. Basically, the pistol RoboCop has is like it's an extended barrel like Beretta 92, but it's also it's like it does burst shot. I think it might do full auto as well. Yeah, so it has like something that can lay down like a decent amount of firepower. So he's getting, Nancy Allen helps him, get back together. And while this is happening, Dick Jones and Boddicker, made a deal to stay in business with each other still. And Boddicker's like, well, I'm going to need some, good weapons. And he's like, you got any military hardware? And Dick Jones tells him, we practically are the military. So they set him up. Dick Jones sets up Boddicker and his guys with a bunch of 20 millimeter like anti-tank rifles. And so you see like downtown Detroit, the deal with the Detroit police and OCP has cut the police benefits since privatizing them. So the police are on strike, and these bad guys are let out of jail early, and they're free to do whatever. So they start shooting up the place and stealing stuff. And they got these Cobra assault cannon, like 20 millimeter weapons, so that they could take down RoboCop. And they find out RoboCop's back at the steel mill, so they head back there, and there's a shootout with RoboCop and Officer Lewis. They have a shootout with the bad guys, and RoboCop ends up having like a one-on-one like hand-to-hand combat fight with Dick Jones, not Dick Jones, but Clarence Boddicker. And the neat thing about RoboCop is he has this, it's a data terminal, but the damn thing is like a dagger that like extends from his fist. So he stabs Clarence Boddicker in the neck and kills him. And RoboCop is left to deal with Dick Jones. So he shows up at OCP headquarters after dealing with Boddicker. There's an Ed 209 outside the building, and RoboCop has one of his Cobra assault cannons, and he shoots the Ed 209, no problem, destroys it, takes the elevator up the building, and OCP's having another boardroom meeting, and voice is getting dry. He goes into the boardroom meeting. There's this row of like TVs and computers on the wall, and RoboCop plugs his data terminal, the shank, the dagger that he has in his fist, and puts it into the terminal. And he's got the recording from when he confronted Dick Jones earlier in Dick Jones' office. And what Dick Jones was talking about was when he killed Bob Morgan. And so Dick Jones, not only did Boddicker make the mistake of spilling the beans on tape on a recording, so did Dick Jones. So the whole boardroom, executives see this, virtual confession of Dick Jones, and the owner of OCP, who's referred to as the old man, sees this. Dick Jones, realizing the gig is up, takes the old man hostage, and he's got this big Desert Eagle pistol that he's holding the old man hostage with. And RoboCop at this point still can't do anything because Dick Jones still works for OCP, and then that's when the old man says to Dick Jones, "You're fired," and that's when RoboCop's programming is freed up to kill Dick Jones. So Dick Jones gets shot. From being shot, he falls out of the skyscraper window, like through the glass, and he falls 50 stories or whatever it is. And at the end of the movie, the old man asks Murphy, "Nice shooting, son. What's your name?" And he's like, "Murphy," and then it cuts the credits and the theme music. So then, next movie, RoboCop 2. Not as good as a movie. I think the first one is the best one. The second one kind of goes into like weird directions. Like it overdoes like the humor, and then like trying to think what else to say. Maybe it doesn't get the violence of the first movie. Like, the first movie has violence, but it plays with the humor well. The second movie doesn't get it. So a lot of the second movie is there's this drug dealer called Kane, and he's got a few henchmen. One of them is this young kid, and the other thing is another henchwoman is this drug addict girlfriend. And the other thing going on in the plot is not only is OCP has taken over the police force, but now they want to take over the whole city government itself. Detroit is broke in debt, and OCP has this opportunity to snatch up and take over the whole city. They got the Detroit mayor and like one or two of his like councilmen with money in their hands, and intimidate him all they want. So this guy Kane is making this drug called Nuke, and it's an extremely addictive drug that all these different people are taking it. RoboCop, Officer Lewis, and the rest of the Detroit police are having to fight this gang and their addiction. And the other thing going on is OCP is trying to develop another RoboCop, and it's not like the original RoboCop. It's not a man in like just metal, robot, body with metal armor. They're trying other ideas that aren't necessarily good. So they had these two other like humanoid-looking RoboCops that they test, and it looks different. They look different, but they're both from deceased Detroit police officers like Murphy. But these two guys, neither of them accept the programming. They're suicidal, so both of these robots off themselves. Like, so neither of these RoboCops work out, and there's this scientist engineer woman that is trying to develop the new robot, RoboCop project, RoboCop 2. So she's like thinking, well, police officers aren't working out. What if I try something extremely different? So she gets the idea that she wants to try criminals as the basis for the next RoboCop, because I guess she believes they're different personalities, being more independent, and they'll accept being reincarnated as a robot more easily. But while this is going down well, she's trying to figure out who the RoboCop would be. RoboCop tries to take on Kane and his gang, and while this is going on, the Detroit police are striking again, and so Kane and his guys are able to do whatever they want more than there, and RoboCop eventually finds their hideout, but it's a trap, despite the first films establishing that RoboCop is titanium and Kevlar. Somehow, in this second film, RoboCop ends up as being very magnetic, so they have this industrial electromagnet that they trap RoboCop with, and they chain him to some industrial table, and they're trying all sorts of jackhammers and cutting tools on RoboCop, and they don't entirely kill him, and instead they just disassemble him, and it's like, Scott Evil asks, Dr. Evil, like, why don't you just kill him? He'll get away. So they end up dumping RoboCop's, he's still alive, but they dump his broken body parts in front of the Detroit police station. And naturally, the Detroit police and OCP, OCP is hesitant to rebuild it, but they do eventually do so. But the lady with the other RoboCop project, she feels threatened by the original RoboCop, so she makes this suggestion. Let's make the original RoboCop stupid. Let's put a bunch of garbage into his programming. So RoboCop and Officer Lewis go out on patrol again, and the city is in chaos, and there's this Little League team of all things robbing this electronics store, and Nancy Allen, she's ready to go in action. The baseball coach, he pulls a gun out and starts shooting at her. And RoboCop, due to this new programming, is being useless. And so Nancy Allen is having to deal with the electronics store heist herself, and then Murphy eventually gets out of the car and he walks into the store, and he's not really helping with the arrest. He's just saying these stupid slogans
Tucker General, all this. Brooklyn Drive, Chestnut Hill, Station 81, paramedic unit, and 2 a.m. Zero discharge.
So getting back to the RoboCop in the electronics store, he's just saying these like stupid like life lessons to these kids, and these kids realize that RoboCop is screwed up, and that Nancy Allen isn't able to arrest them, effectively. So they all get away, and so she's realizing that Murphy's programming is all screwed up. And so they get back to the police station, and they're talking with the technician that Murphy's programming is all messed up. The other thing I forgot to mention earlier was there's a little like side plot that doesn't go anywhere of RoboCop is trying to track down his wife and son, and RoboCop is having to fight his programming and his humanity. Like he doesn't. RoboCop 2 in this, I'm talking about the movie, not the robot, the other robot. In this movie, it's like it's forgotten about that he got his humanity back in the first film. He's more or less, introduced in this film as being just a robot again with his personality. So, getting back to the side plot of his wife and son, he basically acts like he doesn't remember them, and I guess he's doing that to be easier on them. He's no longer pursuing contact with them. So getting back to RoboCop gets to the police station after having to deal with the baseball gang, the Little Leaguers, and they realize Murphy is all screwed up by the programming that OCP put into them when they rebuilt the broken RoboCop, and he eventually goes outside the police station, and what it is he found out that if his body takes like strong electrical charge, his programming can be reset. So there's this electrical transformer site outside of the police station where he decides to shock himself on that, and by doing that he erases the programming and gets his humanity back, and he decides to track down Kane again, I believe. I've got my continuity right here, so he finds Kane, and there's a vehicle chase. Kane's got these vans that are full of money or drugs. I believe it was money. And Kane ends up seriously injured from the vehicle chase with RoboCop. RoboCop was chasing him on a motorcycle for a while there. And Kane is admitted to the hospital, and that's when his lady that's the OCP scientist, the one that wants to build RoboCop 2, she's like, oh, wow, there's Kane, there's the criminal psychopath I'm looking for to be the new RoboCop. He's independent-minded and all. He's not like those cops that want to commit suicide. So she meets Kane in the hospital, and she gives Kane a hint as to what's about to happen to him before she pulls the plug on him. So Kane goes dead, but his brain organs are still intact, and like his brain, his eye, and some of his spine. And she ends up putting Kane's brain into this RoboCop 2 robot, which this final prototype is gigantic. It's at least like twice the Murphy, so I don't know, it's gotta be more than like 12 feet tall or something. And it's got a built-in like minigun, Gatling gun sort of thing, and then it's got a plasma cutter, and I think there may have been like a rocket launcher too. So while all this is going down, Kane's old gang buddies, like the kid and the drugged up girlfriend, they find out that that the Detroit mayor needs like I don't know how many millions of dollars. Let's say it was $50 million to get Detroit out of debt. And being they got this criminal drug empire that they inherited via Kane's absence. Kane's no longer in charge, and these two have other plans. They decide, well, instead of OCP taking control of Detroit, we'll use our drug money to take control of Detroit. So the Detroit mayor and a couple of his councilmen meet them at like this abandoned factory, and they think, oh yeah, we got all these millions of dollars, we got the Detroit mayor in our hands, everything's gonna go great. And OCP realizes this is a problem, that this is gonna happen, so they built Kane. Kane has this problem of still being addicted to the drug nuke, so he's actually got a port built into it to administer the drug. So the OCP scientist that built him is like, you don't get more nuke until you get rid of the mayor and the kid and the drugged up girlfriend. So Kane crashes this meeting between the kid and the drugged up girlfriend and the mayor, and Kane ends up killing basically all of them. The only one that survives is the mayor. The mayor escapes. RoboCop finds the aftermath of the fight, and so the result of this is the mayor doesn't get the bailout of drug money that he hoped for, and the Omni Consumer Products, OCP, the old man, they are set up to completely take over the Detroit government. And so they have this big ceremony celebrating the occasion that the OCP headquarters is going to function as the new city hall, but also the center of the planned Delta City project to rebuild Detroit. And so they have a press conference inside there, and the now former mayor crashes the press conference, and the old man tells him off. The old man's able to outmaneuver him with the conversation, and the old man has a scale model of Delta City, and he out pops from the floor, like on an elevator, is the new RoboCop 2 model. That is the drug dealer Kane, whose brain and personality is inside this robot. And the old man thinks everything's going to go fine, and Kane isn't accepting the programming. Kane is still addicted to the drug nuke, and the old man does not know that Kane is addicted to nuke. So rather than hold like an empty vial or like an imitation, the old man is in this press conference holding up an actual tube of the drug nuke, and Kane, who's addicted, sees this whole canister of nuke, and he's like, oh god, I need that, and takes it right out of the old man's hands. And And while this is happening, RoboCop shows up in the like the seating area, and RoboCop's got one of these Cobra assault cannons, and he knows what Kane's about to do. And Kane takes the nuke, goes nuts, starts shooting up the place, and RoboCop's got the Cobra assault cannon. He manages to get a few shots off on Kane, but so he does damage Kane somewhat. But the fight goes wild, where Kane moves so fast that he's able to climb right up the elevator shaft of this tower that's presumably like 100 stories tall. And so the fight ends up on the roof, and RoboCop is able to lure Kane to fall off the roof with it. And it goes down to the bottom of the building. They crash into like a lower basement where there's like, you know, machine rooms and such. And so you don't see what happens for a moment, but then Kane is back on the surface. Like all this chaos going on, all these OCP guards and the Detroit police show up, and they're doing their damnedest to try to, you know, shoot at Kane and, you know, destroy him. And they're not having much luck. A lot of the cops are getting killed and or injured, and a bunch of the reporters are also getting shot at. And, Nancy Allen, there's an OCP armored car close by. She gets in one of these, like, I guess it's like a Cadillac Gauge armored car. She manages to crash into Kane and pin him against the building. And a little time goes by, and they're wondering, oh, is Kane dead? You know, did we get him? And no, Kane is still alive. And that's when you know, RoboCop has to jump on Kane, and RoboCop ends up removing Kane's brain, kills him, and you know, that's the movie. The OCP scientists that built Kane. OCP realizes they're in trouble, the old man and his executive, the guy Johnson from the first film. And they're like, well, who can we pin the blame on? And, well, we can pin the blame on the scientists that built Kane. So she gets set up to take the fall. And that's when we cut to the third movie, RoboCop 3. And what happens here is the story's ambiguous, but apparently the old man is forced into like early retirement because of the finances of OCP. They probably took a hit with you know, the whole Kane debacle, and what ends up happening is OCP ends up getting bought out by a Japanese corporation. So Johnson, who was the like the second in charge executive from the second film, he was like third in charge in the first film. He's still with the company. He's still second in charge. But OCP has a new puppet chairman played by Rip Torn, and that's all he is a puppet. That's the real power lies with the Japanese company that bought them out. And what's going on is, despite the last two films, you know, showing that the construction of Delta City was it's been delayed, and what OCP aims to do is to clear out old Detroit. They're going to relocate everybody against their will and demolish all the old buildings and build their new modern city. But OCP has dire finances, and to please the Japanese parent company along with the other investors, they've got to get this project going within 4 days. So in this movie, I can't think of the actor's name, but RoboCop is no longer played by Peter Weller. Nancy Allen's still in the movie as his police partner, and they are, they find out they're aware of this relocation of the people in Old Detroit, and while this is going on, there's like an underground resistance movement. Well, the Japanese parent company, Kanemitsu, has this. There's this British paramilitary guy named Doggett who is running part of the Detroit police that's referred to the rehabs, and these rehab guys are basically a bunch of SWAT teams that are cleaning out the old Detroit, trying to get rid of the people that live there. And Doggett basically just takes orders directly from the Japanese parent company. He doesn't take orders from the rest of the Detroit police or the Rip Torn character. And what ends up happening is there's a little girl that is separated from her parents, and she ends up with the resistance crew. And while this is happening, RoboCop finds out that OCP is in the wrong, and what it is him and Nancy Allen decide to go to this abandoned church where the resistance is hiding, and they get caught in like the what's to be the crossfire between the OCP rehab SWAT teams and the resistance and the regular citizens of the neighborhood. So Nancy Allen's character, Ann Lewis, ends up getting killed by the rehabs, and RoboCop is unable to do anything about it because he still has the directive to not harm an OCP officer, and so he's not able to do anything about Doggett or Doggett's henchmen. And RoboCop gets beat up, shot up from a grenade, and the resistance goes into hiding with RoboCop. And RoboCop is useless at this point. They have to rebuild him. RoboCop's got a friend on at the Detroit police. She works for both OCP and the Detroit police. She's RoboCop's technician, and she ends up helping rebuild RoboCop. And towards the end of the movie, there's a big fight on the street where the Detroit police again are like they want to strike, and they're the regular Detroit police officers are hesitant to vacate the residents of Old Detroit, so they're not getting their pay they expected from OCP nor their pensions, and with the evictions and what's going on and what happened to RoboCop's being labeled as a bad guy by OCP, they decide, well, we're not going to help OCP anymore, so they end up joining the people of Old Detroit and RoboCop, and there's a big street battle between the regular Detroit police and the rehabs. And the other thing is the rehabs also use the help of regular gang members to help to clear out Old Detroit. So RoboCop ends up winning that fight, but he's still got to deal with Doggett, and RoboCop ends up in possession of a jetpack where he's able to fly to the OCP headquarters tower that's when Doggett's, Doggett feels he's backed into a corner, and the other thing going on is there's these samurai robots, like these ninjas from the Kanamitsu Corporation that were sent to hunt Robocops. So there's two of them in the tower with Doggett, ready to take down Robocop. But Robocop, along with the kid, is a computer hacker, so her and Robocop, they end up taking down these ninjas, and they end up taking down Doggett too, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. And there's a good quote by Robocop at the end of the movie. Rip Torn, who's the OCP president, who's disgraced at this point. He's screwed up. He's unable to impress the owner of the Japanese parent company, Kanamitsu, and so they're out on the street of old Detroit, and Rip Torn's still trying to suck up to the Japanese boss, and boss tells Rip Torn that he's fired, and Rip Torn says to Robocop, I gotta hand it to you, and he's like, what's your name, Murphy? And then Murphy, Robocop, ends up telling him off. He says, this is like the best line of the movie. My friends call me Murphy, you call me Robocop. But yeah, it's watching 4 movies. It's very long. I watched Never Say Never Again. I watched the 3 Robocop movies, and it's a long ride home. So now it's like, I guess it's almost 2:30. I'm gonna end the stream. But yeah, I mean, that's me, summarizing, these movies from my perspective as to what I can remember. It makes the ride go quicker for me. But that's it for